Hi, welcome back for another preview video. This time I'm going to show you how the game O Crab works. Yes, O Crab, you heard it right. Crab, like, you know, the crabs that walk on the seaside and they go towards the sea. Yeah, this is a racing game for the whole family that I think a mix of group players can enjoy it too. It's a game that has a lot of chaining and combining action cards so that you can move further, push other crabs and do more with your turn. It's a clever game. This company, Smart Flamingo, has an amazing logo, a very fun logo, but also they produce smart and fun games that I really enjoy, with easy and quick rules, accessible for most, with clever ideas, and that they're focused around enjoying the game and having a great fun in a relatively limited amount of time, I would say. So this makes it perfect choice for family games, but not only. It's a game that has a very cheerful colors and has little crabs and has a nice action cards, and shows a course, because you put together boards to create a course from the seaside running across the sand to the sea itself, so that you can return to the sea and win the game. The first player who does that wins the game, and is declared, I don't know, the king crab of all. The way the game plays, as you'll see, I'm going to explain it in a sec. You play action cards, which give you action icons, and you can either move forward and sideways, or collect shells, etc. And as long as you move according to your action cards and the symbols you played, you can bump other crabs, and actually you're opting in order to do that, in order to push them on obstacles, so that they can bump on obstacles and force them to discard cards. So it has a lot of take that, the game, which I really like. It has a lot of nice, cool chaining ideas, because when you play cards, when you combine them, when you play the card, you will activate the action card icon, so you'll move accordingly or collect shells or whatever the card says. But the cards have half symbols inside, so if you combine them correctly, you can play more than one actions per turn, and this is really cool. And if you also gain shells and spend them, you can also activate the action tiles that are common area for everybody, and essentially you can do more with your turn, proceed further, use clever pathways and discard specific type of cards, and move further along secret passages and so on, and knocking other crabs and pushing them along the way so that they have to discard cards. Very fun, very clever, very fast paced, highly enjoyable, perfect for families. I really enjoy it, and it's a great little quick game which has all the elements of a fun, enjoyable racing game out there, and I really liked it. So this game is currently on crowdfunding on GameFund. I'm going to add the link in the description of the video so you can find out more about the game. It has only a few days, so make sure to visit the campaign and find out more about how what the publisher is offering to get it funded. I'm going to add links in the description of the video for quick navigation, so you can jump directly for the different parts of the video if you want to see just the components, just the gameplay, the way it scores, the way how the game can be won, etc. And then I'm going to come back at the end of this video for my final opinion and last impressions from the game, from the copy I had so far. So join me to see how the game plays, and don't forget to come back at the end of this video for my quick wrap-up. In the game O Crab, players take the role of crabs that have escaped from Fry House and run along the beach to hide in the safe waves of the sea. On their way, they will face various obstacles like sand castles, rubbish, voracious gulls, and other crabs clumsily making their way towards the water. Welcome to the game, and let's see how the game plays. This is the game already set in front of you. I'm going to first of all help you familiarize yourselves with the components of the game and see what's what, and then we're going to come back with the gameplay, how the game plays, and at the end of this video with my final opinion about the game. So we have various things in front of us. So we have the game already set up, but it has first of all one double-sided start tile, which is this one. So let me just move the crabs that I have already set for demonstration to show you how the starting tile looks like. It has the crab snack house from which the crab starts running out of, starting from the position 0 to 5. This is double-sided. You can select either side. This version has it only printed on one side because it's a prototype, but the final one will have two sides. Then you have the different sections 1, 2, 3, which are double-sided, like this one. you have 4 double-sided beach tiles, which they go and fit in the different spots, either first, second or third, between the start and the finish. They're double-sided, they have different art, different obstacles, and different opportunities for the tactical racing. I have already selected 3 of them and placed them on the main board. There is also one double-sided finish tile, which is this one. You can either finish here or here. And of course this gives a lot of replayability to the game, because you set up the course every time using different 3 tiles, mixing them together differently. The side is different, and also the side of the start and finish tile are different. We have a 5 player aid sheet, which have all the cards, the action cards explained with the name and how the card works. They're dual-sided, and you can find all the explanations and details on how to use the cards. A good reminder. We have 56 action cards. This is this deck of cards here, which it has all the main action cards with this back, and this is the anatomy of the cards. You can either have shells that you can combine on the top to gain shells. You have action icons for the different actions and the abilities at the bottom, and you have half symbols that if you combine them successfully, like here for example, which is the main aspect of the game, you can gain additional actions. This is going to be gained as an additional action if you match it, but if not, you are going to have the depicted actions. So 56 in total, that they are used for the common drawing pile, out of which we draw 3 and place them face up. We also have the respective decks for each of the players, meaning that each player has, let's say the yellow crab here, it has their own player board in the player's color. Okay, so this is for the yellow player. It has a location at the bottom and location at the top. The top is for discarding. The bottom one is for playing, so you play cards below this card here. Each player also has a personal deck of 4 starting cards. You know that they are starting cards because they have the, actually this is from this one. So you have the icon of the color of the player. So for the yellow crab, so these 4 ones belong to the yellow crab, and they form their starting hand. The same goes for the rest of the players. For example, this green player, if they take the green crab, they take the green token. By the way, the tokens are really nice, and they're different from one another. Look at their expressions. Really dig them. Very nice custom wooden meeples. Okay, and the green player, as I was saying, they have the 4 respective starting cards, and you can see that because they have the associated icon at the bottom of their starting cards. So this forms the starting hand of the player. In addition, we have fatigue tokens. These are these tokens here that you can gain in the course of the game. We have shells, or these tokens that you can gain from matching half symbols, or you can gain them by navigating on the starting spaces, on the corresponding spaces where during setup we place the shell marker, and you can use them to perform the different actions provided from the 3 tiles that we have. That this, by the way, we have a total number of 3 double-sided cell action cards. These are printed only from one side for the prototype, but you can see you have a selection of 6. I don't know if more are going to be unlocked, but in any case 3 of them are used in each and every game. And the last thing that we have is the chef starting first player marker, which has also an icon, as you can see, for navigating left to right, and the respective crab markers, which are used for the pieces of the players in their color for racing across the course. So there you have it. These are all the components of the game, and let's move to the setup. Now I'm going to explain the rules for 3 to 5 players. The rules for 2 players are described in a specific section at the end of the rules, and it's a 2-player version, a variant. Okay, so let's see how the game is set up for 3 players, or 4 or 5 players. This is a 5-player setup, as you see. It's very easy. The first step that we do is we place the board tiles in the middle of the table. The starting tile at the beginning from any side, 3 selected randomly out of the 4 double-sided tiles, which they interlock with each other and click, and the finished tile depicted at the end. Then we force a 5-piece starting, 3 in the middle, and finish tile, a 5-piece course, which is going to be used in the game. We place the remaining shells identified on each and every spot which has a shell icon. Let me show you one up close. Need to take a starting shell marker from during setup, and on all of those spaces on the course we place 1 shell on each of those, including the starting spaces. We place the remaining shells near the board. The next thing we do is we place the fatigue tokens near the board. This one's over here, I showed you before, and reveal, take the deck, the action cards, shuffle it, and reveal 3 cards next to it to create the offer. So this is the action deck and has 1, 2, 3 action cards as an offer. We place 3 shell action tiles on a random side next to the board to create the ones used for this game. Then each player places a player board and a crab figure in a chosen color in front of them and takes the starting action icons marked with in the lower right, in the lower bottom part of their cards. So matching cards with matching marker. Randomly we select the first player. The first player places their crab on the starting square marked with number 1. Then clockwise, the rest of the players place their pawns on following squares, hexes I should say, 2, 3, 4 and 5. The player whose crab was placed on space 1, the brown in this case, receives the cook marker. So this one is going to go to the brown player, which is this one over here, and will be the first one to start the first round. Players in the remaining odd number spaces with shells take them before placing the crab. Now this is the setup, and we're ready to proceed with the gameplay. Gameplay overview. You will move your crabs by playing action cards. You start the game with a hand of 4 starting cards, and you will acquire new ones during the game. The game is divided into rounds. At the beginning of each round you will all simultaneously plan your actions by playing a card face down in front of you, below your main card, your playing card. Then, starting with the player with the chef marker, you will take turns revealing the card you played and performing the moves and other actions available on it. By moving your crabs, you will push other players' crabs, bump onto obstacles, navigate difficult terrain, or collect shells that you can use to perform additional actions from the tiles. By properly combining cards played in subsequent turns, the chaining effect, you can gain more move actions for your crabs, and if at the end of a round, after all players have taken their actions, one of the crabs reaches the sea, its owner is the winner. If not, you pass the cook marker to the player whose crab is furthest from the finish line and play another round until someone wins the game. Playing the game. The game is played in rounds, and each round you will carry out all phases in the following order. First we have the planning phase, then we move to the action phase, and finally we move to the end of round phase. All this is repeated until in a round a player wins the game. Now let's focus on each phase and see how these phases work in practice. The planning phase. You'll perform this phase simultaneously. Each player chooses 1 card from their hand and place it face down in front of them below their card. Once everyone has played their cards, we proceed to the action phase. Just an anatomy of your playing area. This is your main card. Okay. Above it, it shows the discard area. Below it, it shows the cards played in previous turns. And here you're also going to have your current played card. So cards played on previous turns, they may form links and chains like that. Okay, so when you select a card from your hand, you just place it next to your play area, and when it's your turn, then in the following phases you will reveal it and execute it. Okay, but in the planning phase, everybody selects a card and places it next to from their hand, face down in front of them. Okay, next to their card or in any area in front of them. So this is the planning phase, which will make more sense once you know how to use the actions. The second phase that we do is the action phase. In this phase, you take your turns in clockwise order, starting with the player with the chef token. Let's say it's with the green player in this time. And once you start the player and you're the active player, on your turn you do the following steps. You reveal your previously played card. If you do not have any cards below your player board, this is your first card you played the game, you just place it in the center of this area. If you have any cards from previous turns below your board, you choose whether you want to you place the reveal card to the right or to the left of the card just played, of the previous cards played. Okay, either on the left or on the right. It's up to the player to decide which side they want to play it, and it will make more sense when, for example, you see how you can link and chain cards for more action icons. Matching icons is not required, so this is totally fine. You see neither this nor that is matching, but is advised and wished for, because if you manage to do it, it allows you to perform more actions, and there is no limit to the number of cards on each side you can have. So let's say it's my first turn. Okay, and let's say I just played this card, but on a future card, on a future round, maybe I'm able to play this card. I can either play it from here or from here. This seems more promising because see, I'm going to be able to perform the action plus the connected one, as you'll see later on. Okay, you also may want to play cards in future rounds so that you can connect also shells, because they give you opportunities to collect shells, which you can use on the action tiles and perform additional actions. Right, so after placing a card, you consider the actions shown on the card that you just placed. Okay, let's say we placed this card, so we consider the action shown on the card itself, and any other available additional actions. On your turn, you can perform actions in any order. Just remember to finish one action before starting the next one. Actions are not mandatory. You can skip performing an action apart from the rest action. The actions you can perform during your turn are available, and they have all different elements. So let's see the elements that we have from the actions. This action, so if I place this one, okay, I would be able to perform this action and that action because I made the matching half and half symbol in a full icon. Let's see the elements we have. We can have action cards like this one or that one. Okay, this is the rest action actually, so it doesn't go here. This is when you play, you collect it. Okay, you cannot discard it. So let's say it goes like that. So you can either have action cards which have symbols. Okay, if you have your icon at the bottom, it's your starting action cards. If not, it's from the ones acquired from the display. You can have actions on tiles, you see, and you spend shells in order to activate them. Or you can have actions spaces on the board with actions. For example, if you focus on this spot here, you can discard 2 cards of this specific type in order to move from this spot all the way to this spot and save time. And finally, you can have the rest action card, which is this one, and it's going to be explained later on. All these are different actions. Keep in mind that also the chef marker has an action icon as displayed at the bottom of the standee, which matches the moving left or right action symbol. Now, description of the actions. Main actions from a card. You can have a shell icon like this one. Okay, for this one you gain a shell from the supply and you keep it in your personal playing area. You can have this icon, which is a move forward. You can move your crab 1 space forward towards the sea, meaning let's say it's this player belongs to the green player, he would be able to move forward. Okay, bad example because he wouldn't want to move forward onto an obstacle because he needs to discard the card. But let's say in the further rounds, let's say we have this distribution. Okay, so if you play this icon, you'll move forward, so you'll just move forward towards the C and finish line. Another icon you can have from playing cards is this one. When you play this card, you can either move left or right. So meaning, let me put it here. Okay, theoretically you just face the crab like that. Okay, so when playing you can either move here or here. Okay, that moves left or right. Good. And the last action that you have, this is only used for diagonal, the previous one, and this one allows you to move either diagonal left, diagonal right, or forward. So essentially with this one you can move in any of 1, 2, 3 spaces, left, forward, or diagonal right. These are the actions, and unless otherwise specified, if in an action description the action moves always the crabs towards the sea. Special actions on cards or on shell action tiles may grant other types of movement, and there are detailed rules of each action described that kind of movement, and you can also have the reference to see what they do. You cannot move the crab off the board or into inaccessible areas. Entering the space, you have to apply any effects associated with it. We'll see how the different fields resolve. And an important other rule is that you will be pushing other crabs. So when you enter a space occupied by another crab, you push it out of that square by performing a standard move with it in any direction to any of the 3 fields towards the sea. Meaning it's like you pushed it, moved in its space, and it's like you apply this on the space that it was previously located and push the opponent crab towards the sea in any of the 3 spaces in front of it. Keep in mind that all decisions about the direction of moves are made by the player taking the turn, so they decide if they're going to push them left, center, forward, or right, and of course they want to do more damage. So in this case, if the yellow player was pushing, they will move here, and they will either push here, here, or here, the opponent. But let's say the yellow player was moving here. In this case, they would push either here, here, or here. It makes more sense to push them there because this icon is an obstacle because it has red borders and it has the discard icon and forces the green player to discard the card, which hurts them a lot, trust me. So these are the actions from the cards. There are side actions from a card. As I explained, if you match, if you play a card and by doing so you match the symbol, so let's say I played this one, I have 2 actions. I have the action on the card, which is as I explained, and I also have an icon here because I created 2 halves linking them together, so giving me one more action of this type. So action cards have halves on the icon sides. If you play a card in such a way that the halves of the icon on one side matches the halves of the icon of the other previously played card, either left or right on your chain, the icons arranged in this way give you additional actions that you can use in turn. These side action icons are the same as the main actions that we explained before. Okay, so that's also really, really useful. Now, next type of action is the special action from a card. The special action from a card allows the player to perform special movements. Let's see one example. By playing this card, of course, I have the shell to collect, I have the half icon to try to combine them from either side, but I also have this icon here. Special actions from card contain a special action. A detailed description of these are going to be described on the rulebook and on the player aids, what these mean. Okay. It's important to know that if an action allows moving other player crabs, all decisions about the direction of the moves are made by the player playing the action. And simply to explain this action, this means faster. So what do is you discard the card to make a forward move. So you can, when you play it, you can gain a shell, gain additional combinations from matching halves, and if you want, you can discard the card with this one to perform to gain additional movement forward. I remind you that all these cards are explained here on the player aid, which does a great job to remind, even though the iconography is very easy and makes sense after a while. You can always refer to it if you don't remember something for a quick reminder. We also have, if you remember, 3 shell tiles. When you use these shell tiles, once during your turn you can spend shells to perform one of the bonus actions from the tiles near the game board. You return the number of shells indicated on the tile. In this case I would return 2. And I would perform the specific action. I would move forward 1 if I return 2 shells. That's why I want to collect shells, either from the board or from the symbols that they give me, icon token shells. Keep in mind that I can only perform 1 shell action per turn, so no matter if I have more shells, I cannot repeat the same one or repeat another action from the 3 available. There is also the move you get from the chef marker. If you are the player with the chef marker, you can perform 1 additional diagonal move, either left or right. You can see it there and you spend it. And the last, there are actions from the board, as I've shown you before. You can perform specific actions, like this one we explained before, which was here, where you can intentionally go there to discard 2 cards from your hand of this specific type and then move with a shortcut, okay, or any other for that reason. Either type of actions printed on the board, I mean. When I discard cards from my hand for other effects, I discard them on the top here, okay, so this is my discard area above my center card. There is also the rest action, which is played from the player, and once played, it's this one, okay. So when I play the rest action, this allows me to get all of my cards back and gain a new one. You play the rest card like any other card, that means on the left side or on the right side, so you're trying to match to gain shells, half shells, as you can see, shell icons. You play it like any other card, face down during the planning phase. Then your turn, you perform the actions available to you, and if you successfully match the card side action, you gain a shell. You resolve it first, and the rest action consists of the following steps, which must be performed in the given order, and they are mandatory. You take, first of all, you take 1 card from the supply of the available actions offered to you, the top card or the top card of the action deck, and place it into your hand. If a face-up card from the supply was taken, draw a card from the action deck and fill the empty space so that you always have 3 cards in the offer. The second thing that you do is you take all your played cards from below your playing area, including your rest card and your discarded cards, and place them into your hand. Okay, so this way you get your cards back, and it's the only card, as you can see, the rest card, that cannot be discarded, and it has this icon to remind you that it cannot be discarded. If you have any fatigue tokens at this step, at the end of your turn, after resting, I remind you, this is how the fatigue token looks like. So if you had any fatigue tokens, that means that after resting you have to discard cards from your hand again. Not this one, you cannot discard this one, but let's say I have 1 fatigue card. I need to discard 1 card to get rid of to the fatigue. Okay, so keep in mind also for the fatigue icons, tokens. So, as I explained, when discard cards, some action effect cards marked with an icon require you to discard a card from your hand in order to use it. In such case, you always discard cards face down, horizontally, above your playing center card. So that means you always have to discard in this area over here, but you won't be able to use it until you get them back into your hand. Keep in mind that if you have to discard the card because, let's say, you were bumped on an obstacle on the course or any other reason, and you don't have cards to discard, then you gain fatigue tokens, as shown you before, and at the end of the player's turn, you have to discard cards after collecting your hand again. Cards with, as I mentioned, there are cards with this symbol that they cannot be discarded, and if you only have cards with this symbol, you don't discard any cards from your hand. So this is how discarding cards works. So let's see now the different types of spaces on the playing board, on the game board. Types of spaces. You can have either standard space, which is this one, that one, that one. You can enter standard spaces without any restrictions. They do not cause any additional effects. You have inaccessible areas. Areas that are inaccessible and outside of the board are targeted as if there was no space there. Crabs may never enter them. No effects can change this, so you cannot go in areas outside of the board. You have obstacle spaces like this one. They have thick red border. This is an obstacle, a doll. This is another obstacle, a bucket. They have the discard the card icon, as you can see. When your crab enters an obstacle space marked with the discard icon, as a result of either you choosing to go there to cut some road and go faster, or if you're being pushed from another player, then you must discard the card from your hand. And we've seen how this works in the discarding cards section that we described before. But all these are either single or multi-space obstacles, which force all of them to discard cards. Then you have shortcut spaces like this one. Let's move closer. This is a shortcut. They have this green dashed border. If at any time during your turn your crab is on a shortcut space, you may discard 2 cards from your hand with the matching main action symbol as shown here, specifically what shows here. In this case it has the 3 forward, left or right icon, this one. You need to discard 2 of those cards in order to use the shortcut. You discard the cards like before and use the main action and move your crab from here all the way, following the dashed arrow to the final destination. It's important you cannot take fatigue markers instead of discarding these cards. You have to discard these cards to use the shortcut. And then we have the grass effect in some of the spaces, like this one. You can only enter grass space by moving diagonally from the appropriate adjacent space, so I can only enter this space if I come, let me put it here, I can only enter this space if I come from here or from here. I cannot go from that space directly forward. Okay. It is possible for a crab to enter this space ignoring the diagonal movement rule due to the effects of other players' actions, for example being pushed. Okay, but you cannot intentionally move other than the diagonals, as you see here. Then we have the drift spaces, these red thick borders with an arrow pointing to another space. The effect is that if you end your movement on a drift space, and actually this could either be this way or the other way around. Okay, so this is making it more difficult to move here. You have to take the bridge. If you end your move on a drift space at the end of your turn, you move your crab following the arrow. This move only affects a crab that was taking actions in the current turn, not all crabs in such spaces. It's important that when this additional movement causes a crab to enter a space occupied by another crab, then push it according to the standard rules. So it could be that you also have it like that. No, you cannot put it like that. They don't match. My bad. But it was good to demonstrate it. So the next space that we see is the C space, which is this one over here. When your crab enters the C space, you move it further into the C area, signifying that you have sailed away and finished the race. The crab has no longer the option to be targeted by any other actions or effects from other players to harm you essentially. The carry round will be the last one, and we proceed to the end game if you move to a C space. And last we have spaces with a shell icon. This shell icon indicates that the spaces here you have to put shell tokens during setup, and when a player's crab enters a space with a shell token already there, not taken from any other player, they will pick it up and place it in their own supply. Shells on the board are not replenished during the game. Each shell on the board can only be gained once by a crab in the race. The unoccupied space, a space of any type not occupied by a crab, is considered unoccupied, and this there may be other game elements on it, such as shells or anything else, but still it's considered to be unoccupied, meaning by a crab. End of player's turn. At the end of your turn, if you have a fatigue token and you have a card in your hand that you can discard, you must discard 1 card and return the fatigue marker to the general supply. After all players have taken their actions, when the player to the right of the player with the chef marker ends their turn, then you proceed to the next phase. Third phase is the end of the round phase. If no crabs have reached the sea, you pass the safe marker to the player whose crab is furthest from the sea. If several players' crabs are in the same furthest distance from the sea, the marker is passed to the first of these players in clockwise order from the player who currently has the safe marker. Meaning in this case, the safe marker would be passed to the player with the brown crab because he is furthest away from the sea. End of the game. If one of the crabs has reached the end of the course into the sea, the current round is the last one of the game, and the remaining players play their planned moves for this round, and then the game ends. Then the player whose crabs reached the sea, the player who reached the sea, if it's a sole player, he wins the game. If for some reason there was heavy competition and at the last moment in the final round an additional player managed to move into the sea area, okay, then in this case the player among them with the most cards in hand and fewer fatigue tokens wins. If there is a tie and that cannot be broken in this way, the player share the victory. There is a two-player variant. The two-player variant follows the same rules like with the 3 to 5 players. The setup is a bit different. The game takes place on a shorter board. During the preparation of step 1, use only 2 instead of 3 beach modules when laying the board. And after step 6 of the setup, each player receives 2 crabs, 2 pieces of the same color. At step 7 of the setup, the randomly selected first player places a first crab on space 1 and 4 and gets the cook marker. The second player places their crabs in space 2 and 3. How you play a two-player variant? During the planning phase, everyone chooses 1 card as per standard rules. At the beginning of your turn, in the action phase, you check which one of your crabs is the furthest from the sea, and you must perform your whole turn with that crab. If both of your crabs are in the same distance, you can decide which crab you wish to use and perform all actions with your turn. While performing moves, you can only push your opponent's crabs, but not your own. If you want to enter the space occupied by your own crab, these crabs switch places, as with the shell action, out of the way. And if the card effects affect other crabs, like the seagull or the call of the sea, they affect all the crabs, both yours and the opponent's. Effects that clearly target another player, sun in the eyes, or another crab, out of the way. A card cannot be performed on your own crab. At the end of the round, the chef marker goes to the player whose crab is furthest from the sea, as per standard rules, and at the end of the game, the game ends in a round when both crabs owned by one of the players will reach the sea, and the round continues until the end, and any ties are resolved as usual. So essentially, again, you're handling 2 crabs, and that gives a lot of interaction for bumping and pushing purposes. So there you have it. These are all the rules about how you play a crab. Just to mention that there is a variety of, I think there is going to be a module with events, if I'm not mistaken. All the card effects are explained in the rulebook, so everything is clear. Also, all the action shells tiles are explained in the rulebook, and there is a rule summary and a round overview. Maybe they offer it as a player aid, I don't know, depending on the campaign. And at the back of the rulebook you can find the icon description and reminder. So there you have it. You now know everything you need to know on how to play the game. So there you have it. This is everything you need to know on how to play O Crab. And it's a game that it has a funny name, a funny silly name. It has funny and cheerful art, I should say, and table presence. It has a lot of replayability because the way you combine the cards, they're double-sided, and the way, the order that you would combine the course tiles, you create a different course, so it's different every time. It has a lot of different possibilities with the actions, how you chain them, and it has a lot of take that, so if you enjoy a bit of pushing your opponents, you're definitely going to enjoy this game. I want to highlight that this is a great game for families because it has fast pace, it has few rules, it has a nice colorful table presence, it has a lot of replayability, it has great card play, and also it gives you a lot of things to think, but without overburdening, because you just need to combine the cards and do the best with the icons to get more icons, more actions. More actions can do more with your turn. Very simple as that. The game offers a lot of quick decision, high satisfaction, fun in its gameplay, and this is something that not many games can do. Deliver fun experience overall without need to learn a ton of rules or check a ton of details or come back to the rulebook all the time. That doesn't mean that the game doesn't offer choices. It has a lot of choices, it has a lot of things to think, but it's just something that you've done in a couple of seconds, then you play and then you go to the next player, so it doesn't take a long time other than it should. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and it doesn't have analysis paralysis, I should say. The game has also tension, because you're trying to race down and win the race. So that's the purpose of the game, and you're trying to use the icons and the actions as efficiently as possible and as best as possible, always better from your opponents, in order to make best combinations and win the game. Using the action tiles is important. Using the correct actions and placing them next to the correct order from what you have and make the best of it is important. Staying away as much as possible, not always feasible, from other players, so that you cannot be pushed. It's like a little race of crabs on the sand. I don't know if the crabs push each other, but in this game you'll be doing a lot of pushing and a lot of take that, which is also fun and highly enjoyable. Overall, a great family game, great fun game, quick, easy to set up, and with high replayability and great replay value, I should say. So make sure to check it out and find out more from the link in the description of the video. So many thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel or give us a thumbs up and let us know what you want to see more. Many thanks for watching.